Hey everyone! If you've ever felt stuck in a situation where you feel like nothing you do can make things better, you might be dealing with learned helplessness, a psychological phenomenon where you feel like you're powerless to change your circumstances, even when you actually have the ability to do so. It could affect your career goals or a relationship where you just feel kind of gray. It could also be that you aren't sure which direction to go after AI started affecting your job. Now, learned helplessness is one of those psychological concepts that gets misunderstood a lot. People often make assumptions about what it is and why it happens, and in today's video, we're going to debunk 5 of the most common myths about learned helplessness. By the end, you'll have a much clearer understanding of what this condition is and why it happens. Make sure to watch part 2 of this video on how to overcome feeling stuck, so let's dive in. Myth number 1. Learned helplessness is just about being lazy. I've heard this one a lot. The idea that people who feel helpless are just lazy or unmotivated. But let's get one thing straight. Learned helplessness is not about laziness. It's about the perception of powerlessness. Imagine a person who repeatedly tries to get a job, but each time they get rejected. Over time, they start to believe that no matter how hard they try, things will never work out. Eventually, they stop trying altogether, not because they're lazy, but because they've developed the belief that their actions don't matter. It's a learned response to failure and setbacks, not an unwillingness to act. People with learned helplessness often struggle with feeling trapped, not because they don't want to improve their situation, but because they've learned that their efforts will never make a difference. It's a cognitive trap, not a matter of laziness. Myth number 2. Learned helplessness only happens after major trauma. A lot of people assume that learned helplessness only develops after big, catastrophic events, like a serious car accident or losing someone close to you. But that's actually not true. Yes, trauma can definitely trigger learned helplessness, but it doesn't have to be a huge, earth-shattering event. In fact, learned helplessness can develop from ongoing, smaller setbacks. Think about a child who constantly feels let down because their parent never says something positive when they do well on an exam. Or someone who keeps getting overlooked for a job promotion, even though coworkers and managers turn to that person for help. Over time, those small failures and constant stressors can pile up, leading to a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. It's not always about one big trauma. It can also be the cumulative effect of repeated disappointments, micro-stressors, or unresolved emotional pain. That's why learned helplessness can affect anyone, even if they've never experienced something overwhelmingly traumatic. Myth number 3. People with learned helplessness can't change. One of the most damaging myths about learned helplessness is that once you're in it, you're stuck forever. This is absolutely false. The truth is, learned helplessness can be reversed. It takes time and often requires intentional effort, a commitment to change the thought patterns that contribute to the feeling of powerlessness. But it is entirely possible. Working with a professional can help this process. In fact, research shows that people can break out of learned helplessness by taking small, achievable steps that allow them to regain a sense of control. Even a tiny success can gradually rebuild confidence and start the process of change. This is why it's so important to focus on small wins, because every little achievement builds momentum and helps shift that mindset of helplessness. People often think they're stuck in a permanent state of failure, but this is a cognitive distortion. With the right tools, strategies, and support, change is not only possible, it's inevitable. Myth number 4. Feeling stuck is only about giving up. Some people think that learned helplessness is simply about you giving up. Throwing in the towel and quitting altogether. But the issue is much deeper than that. While giving up is certainly one of the symptoms of learned helplessness, it's more about the mental state of believing that you have no control over your life. Sometimes, it can feel like you are going in circles with no way out. It can also feel like going above and beyond to get caught up on a pile of work, yet feeling like you haven't made a dent. It's about giving up on trying because you're convinced that no matter what you do, the outcome will always be the same. It's a mental resignation, not just a physical one. So while it may look like someone with learned helplessness has simply given up, what's actually happening is that their belief system has been altered by the experience of failure. They don't try anymore because they don't think it will work, not because they're inherently lazy or unmotivated. Myth number 5. Other people have it easier than me. Have you ever looked at someone else's life and thought, they've got it so much easier than me? It's a thought that sneaks in quietly, and suddenly you're convinced your struggles are uniquely unfair. But here's the truth. Comparison is a highlight reel. You're measuring your behind the scenes against someone else's polished preview. You don't see their self-doubt, their setbacks, their late nights wondering if they're enough. When you believe others have it easier, you give yourself permission to quit before you even start. But the reality is, most people aren't succeeding because life is easy. They're succeeding in spite of the hard stuff. Everyone is carrying something. Trauma, fear, failure. It just wears different clothes. And often the people who look like they're winning now, they once felt just as stuck as you do now. So the next time you think someone else's path is smoother, stop. Instead of comparing stories, write your own. Because feeling stuck doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you're at the beginning of your next breakthrough. So, to wrap up, let's quickly go over the 5 myths we debunked about learned helplessness. 1. It's not about laziness, it's about feeling powerless. 2. It doesn't only happen after trauma, it can develop from small cumulative setbacks. 3. People can change and overcome learned helplessness with effort and small wins. 4. It's not just about giving up, it's about feeling mentally stuck. 5. And if you think other people have it easier, remember everyone is carrying their own trauma. If any of these myths resonated with you, don't worry, you're not alone, and help is available. Recognizing learned helplessness is the first step to breaking free from it. In the next video, we'll dive into how you can start overcoming learned helplessness and regain control of your life. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay curious and keep growing. If you found this helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights. Catch you in the next one.